925 here on AM 760 Progressive Talk. So what is going on at DIA? That's right, there's going to be a picket at DIA dealing with United Airlines, which of course is one of the big, if not the biggest carrier in Denver. And joining us to talk about what exactly is going on is the president of the Association of Flight Attendants, Ken Kyle. Ken, thank you for taking the time this morning. So there is this labor dispute between flight attendants and United Airlines. So let's start by, why don't you tell us exactly what's going on and when this picket is happening. And of course, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be wondering, will it affect air travel and people's travel plans?
Thanks, David, and good morning. It's currently at this point in time, it has been and it continues to be informational picketing only. Under the Railway Labor Act, we're actually not permitted, not allowed to have any sort of economic work stoppage or take any sort of economic action against the airline until or unless we are released by the National Mediation Board. However, we're taking our arguments to the public. We very much want United Airlines to succeed. However, any concessions that we have given 7 years ago in bankruptcy have simply gone into the pockets of our corporate executives at this airline, and we were promised a return of those concessions. We were promised an on-time agreement, and our contract actually ran out, became amendable January 7th. We started negotiations early, 9 months prior, in the hopes of having an on-time work agreement, seamless transition to a new contract, and we're now 3 months past that amendable date and really have made very little, if any, progress towards a settlement.
So when people see picketers potentially at DIA, because I always wonder this, you never know. You say this one's an informational picket. I mean, should people be concerned about, crossing the picket line, or is this not? Are we not at that sort of situation just yet?
Correct. It is not a picket line per se, as far as other labor workers or supportive passengers having to worry about crossing it. We simply want to take our arguments to the flying public. Many of them have noticed the decrease in airline service. You're paying more and getting less. That supposedly goes to the bottom line of the company. However, so does the $7.1 billion in concessions that was taken by management in the bankruptcy process. And I mentioned we lost our pensions then as well. The bankruptcy process allowed the taking of work rules, of pay, and our pensions. It's time to get as much of that back and actually get back up to middle-class standards. So, no, the flying public doesn't have to worry at this point, but if we don't get a contract at some point, that will become a reality.
Well, tell us about where United Airlines is financially, because I know a lot of folks, with Denver being one of their hubs, a lot of folks are probably wondering, I mean, how flush is United Airlines these days? Because when folks hear you say, well, they should give back, the management should give back the concessions that flight attendants made, that suggests that United Airlines is actually doing quite well right now. Is that the case?
It's probably a game of numbers. It is factual that United has increased their cash position to the degree of having $3 to $4 billion on hand. United Airlines still flying flights. We're faced with more and more of our flying being outsourced, whether it be to United Express carriers, which are not part of United Airlines, or code share agreements with other airlines where United gets revenue but loses jobs.
From a press release that you put out today, and you note that within months of exiting bankruptcy, this is incredible, the United corporate executives received a 29% raise, followed by a 19% raise for a total of 48% raise, plus bonuses and stock options. All of this while every single remaining employee of the company has waited 7 years to recoup what was taken in concessions. I mean, this is an incredible statistic here, and I just wonder now that the contract is up. I mean, how confident are you that this situation does not escalate? I mean, in your discussions with United Airlines management, have they seemed somewhat willing to come to the table, or is this going to be a standoff?
So far, it appears to be a standoff. We did have, as part of our bankruptcy contract, an agreement by United Airlines that if we did not have a new contract by last August, that the National Mediation Board would be petitioned to have a mediator involved. Normally, that adds a year, couple years to the negotiations process. The mediator did begin working with both sides last August. We have 35 sections to our contract. Only 5 have been substantively addressed, and basically those are 5 sections where there is little, if any, change. Have not gotten to any of the meatier portions. United appears to be delaying and is actually trying to wage this in the media as far as saying that they are offering us things which, quite honestly, have not been offered to us.
Again, on the line with us is Ken Kyle of the the Flight Attendants Union. And last question for you: how many people does this affect in the Denver metro area? I mean, I don't know if you have those numbers on hand, but I'm curious how many flight attendants, how many United folks in general in the metro area are going to be directly affected by this standoff?
I have 1,200 flight attendants in our Denver local union council. So it's 1,200. We have many flight attendants that live here, work out of other cities. They commute to other cities. Then you get into the pilot contracts. You get into the ramp service contracts. You get into the customer service agent contracts. Many of them, all of them, have the same issues that we do. We seem to be a little bit further ahead in that we do have a mediator involved and have been sitting down at the table. The company is only willing to meet with us the days that the mediator can meet and has not been willing to sit down outside of those days. That's only 4 or 5 days a month. One other key issue that I would like to throw in, just take a few seconds. We've gone from 100,000 employees at this company to 44,000 employees. When we had 100,000 employees, we had 36 vice presidents. We now have 44,000 employees, almost 60% less, and yet we now have 44 vice presidents, a 20% increase. The priorities are very skewed.
What does that say in your mind? What does that say?
It says that this company seems to be more focused on outsourcing our jobs and increasing the management structure to reap the benefits of whatever income or whatever profit the United Airlines holding company ends up achieving on the backs of labor.
I got to say, it's funny that you mentioned the vice president's thing, because what comes to my mind, I don't know if it comes to your mind, but what comes to my mind is that scene, the most famous scene in Wall Street, where none other than Gordon Gekko is railing on, I think it was a paper company. Right, it was a paper company, and talking about how they are literally increasing the number of executives, and I think he even talks about getting rid of the number, in that case, of domestic factories. And it's the same kind of situation. It's a very similar situation, and apparently it goes all the way back to the 80s and probably before that. Again, it was Ken Kyle of the Association of Flight Attendants. They are going to be picketing at DIA. I guess it's tomorrow. Is that right?
It's actually today.
It's today. Today.
It has started from 9 to noon. We have a press conference scheduled for 11:30. This will be an ongoing battle. We want Denver passengers to be aware that the reduced service levels on the aircraft are basically due to staffing cuts, and the folks that are there don't have a pension and are paid 30% less.
If you want to find out more information about it, it's unitedafa.org. That's unitedafa.org. Ken, thanks so much, and keep us posted on this, okay?
Thank you very much, David.
Thanks again. 9:35 here on AM 760 Progressive Talk.